mtazamaji wa kipindi chetu cha Safiri Salama na Merikebu kutoka Joel Remington Company. Leo hii tunakuletea tena somo letu linalohusiana na masuala ya ubaharia, masuala ya marine kwa ujumla, na kama kawaida yetu tunatoa elimu ya bahari. Leo hii ndugu mtazamaji, tuna somo letu linalohusiana na duties and responsibilities of the key personnel. Lakini tunaye mwalimu wetu, mtaalamu wetu, Captain. Tunaomba karibu endelee na kipindi chetu.
Yes, good afternoon, dear followers and viewers of Safiri Salama na Merikebu. My name is Captain Konsi Kapambala Mgawe. Today we are going to discuss about duties and responsibilities of deck personnel. The master is the overall in charge of all crew on board ship. Although of course he comes from deck department, but he's the overall in charge of all crew on board ship. In other ways, he's the owner's representative. Owner's rep, owner's representative. It means he's taking charge of the whole vessel. He's taking charge of the whole vessel, including safety-wise, including managerial-wise, including protection of the environment, including cargo on board, including safe navigation of the vessel, including crisis on board. If there is any crisis on board ship, it is the captain must be informed prior or before anybody else on board ship, because he's the owner's representative. But being owner's representative means he must be familiar with the whole vessel. He must be familiar with the vessel. He must be familiar with the SMS, Safety Management System, which is a part of what? ISM code. He must understand this in the first principles. Because Safety Management System is extracted from ISM code, International Safety Management Code, pertaining to all issues regarding safe operations on board ship. He's the one to make sure that everybody strictly follows the safety management system. With the safety management system, you're going to have different checklists for different operations. You are going to have the toolbox meetings. We call toolbox meeting, or sometimes we call job hazard analysis. He must make sure that everything is operating as required. He should not allow any shortcuts as a captain. This is just a part of many duties he's bound to be responsible with. He's also bridging between the clients and the owners, being the representative. For example, the vessel is in Mozambique or is in Brazil, is in wherever. There is no owner in Mozambique. There is no owner in wherever the vessel is. The captain is linking between the two. He's linking between the owners and the clients. And if there is a crisis on board, if there is a crisis regarding cargo or anything pertaining to the operation of the vessel, it is the captain who is going to conclude. It is the captain who is going to conclude that particular crisis by following the company principles, regulations, standing orders or instructions, and guidelines, and the policies. Because with the safety management system, there has to be some policies. You need to have the safety policy, the PPE policies we discussed in the safety management system when we were discussing about ISM code. So he must make sure that everything is done as required. So his duties can extend when the ship, while in port, for example, while the ship is in port, and while at anchor, while sailing, and of course, while on dry dock. In both cases, while the ship is in port, it means either the vessel is loading or the vessel is discharging. You are either loading cargo or discharging cargo. That's why you are alongside in port. So while the vessel is in port, agents, of course, the agents comes on board, different people coming on board. Agents come on board, some MARPO team or pollution control teams comes on board, ISPS team, these ones, the Port Facility Security Officers, PFSOs, they come on board. Everyone coming on board must meet with the captain and discuss whatever, anything which brought him on board. Because if he comes on board, he must have a reason. He cannot just go on board without reason. So when he gets on board, he must see the captain, whether it's the agent or it's the MARPO, Pollution Control Officer, or Port Facility Security Officer. Sometimes even stevedoring companies. Maybe their agent or their officer must meet with the captain and discuss whatever the issue they're going to table. And during cargo operations, if there is any damage to cargo claims, the chief officer is in charge of cargo operations, but he's not the speaker of the vessel. He's not the one who is taking charge of the whole vessel. So the chief mate will produce a report, because with the bill of lading, this bill of lading is always extracted from what is known as mate's receipt. This one is prepared by the chief mate. The chief mate prepares the mate's receipt according to the condition of the cargo. If there is any damage, he must put remarks on the mate's receipt. And finally, from the mate's receipt, you extract a bill of lading. And the custodian of the bill of lading is the master of the ship. So in case of anything, that's why in case of crisis, whatever, the captain must be consulted, because he has the final say on that. Not the chief mate to conclude himself and say, no, I'm not going to do this, whatever. No, he must involve the captain. So during cargo operations, whether loading or discharging, in case of any crisis, the master must chip in to see that everything goes smoothly. And once it gets on board, while the vessel is alongside, there is a lot to be done. There are some shore leaves, some crew are going ashore, some are coming back, some changing crew, everything. So the master is overseeing all operations while the vessel is there, because he's represented by the officers. He's represented by his officers, the second mate, the third mate, chief mate, all duty officers. They're all doing their duties, and in case of something, the master must be notified in plenty of time. You should not wait for something to get out of control. You should not wait for something to get out of hand, then you consult the captain. No. Consult him as early as possible, so that he knows what to do before the situation worsens. This is very important. And while the ship is at anchor, the master always puts what is known as standing or night orders, we say. With night orders. In night orders, if the ship is in port, he puts something there. While we are alongside the port, the duty officers should always make sure that the mooring lines are attended frequently or as required. The gangway is attended as required. The captain must put some instructions in the night order. Apart from the night order, there is what is known as standing instructions. So master's standing instructions, so standing orders. That one is something permanent. But with the night orders, they change according to the environment. If the ship is in port, he must talk something regarding the mooring lines. He must talk something regarding the gangway. He must talk something about stowaways. And many more. Just to make sure that everybody is keeping a safe watch. To see that there is no any flouting of rules. There is no any flouting of rules or procedures on board. No shortcuts in a nutshell, if we can say so. So this is when the ship is alongside. But when the ship is at anchor, in the same night order book, he must inform his officers to make sure that no any vessel encroaches. To encroach is to get close. No any vessel encroaches his vessel, maybe small vessel, whatever. Within, because if you drop anchor, this is your vessel, you drop anchor, then you need to have a swing room. This is a swinging room, because during tides or wind change, the ship will keep on changing. It will keep on turning. It will be turning with this scope, with this lens. So he must always keep the duty officers alert by giving them instructions in the night order book that if you see any dubious vessel, any suspicious vessel maybe coming close to our vessel, let me know. Or do this and this and this. He must inform them. This is what is known as anti-piracy. He must alert them to carry out anti-piracy watch. But he must also alert them pertaining to if the ship is dragging anchor. They should always keep watch to see that the ship is kept on position. And if it happens to drag anchor, then he must be informed. The duty officer must inform him and must call the engine room as well. He must do something before the arrival of the master on the bridge. You should not wait for the captain to come and start doing something. If the ship is dragging anchor, inform the master, but tell the engine room to be standby, because the engine has to be standby, so as the captain can maybe readjust the position of the anchor or something like that. So he must inform them, and he must give them information regarding changing of wind. If there is a sudden change of wind direction and speed, he must be notified, because with the cyclone always, depending on which hemisphere you are, either the wind will be backing or veering. The wind will either be backing or veering. So he must be informed, the captain must be informed that, okay, now the wind is backing, or the wind speed is now at this much, is backing or veering. So depending on the hemisphere, the captain can know now there is an approaching storm. Because if the storm is coming, you must be prepared for it. Otherwise, you just find your ship high and dry on the rocks. This is very important. All these are the duties of the captain, giving them standing instructions. And he must always be ready. When they call him, he must come. He should not start insulting and shouting and say, well, how the hell are you calling me? I'm resting. That is not allowed, because you give someone instructions in the night order book and someone is following the same instructions, then you should not be upset in any way. Shouldn't be upset in any way. You must comply. You see? And in the night order book, of course, while the ship is at anchor, the captain must inform the duty officers that they keep listening watch on the working channel. For example, here is channel 12 and 16. Zanzibar, channel 14, Mombasa, channel 12. They must keep a watch, because otherwise the port control might be calling them and they cannot hear if they are not on that channel. So they must keep that, so that in case of the port control is calling them, they have to respond accordingly. Because in case of anything, the port control must call you. But while sailing, it all depends. Some other companies, if you have chief officer, you have second officer, you have third officer, probably the fourth officer. If you have these three officers, the master does not keep watch. He doesn't keep watch. But if any of the officers finds a concern that requires the master's presence, then he must call him in plenty of time. He should not wait for the situation to worsen and call him. Call him in plenty of time, but before the arrival of the master on the bridge, do the ABCs. You must do the first aid of that particular incident. For example, you are in a collision course with another vessel. You are in a collision course with another vessel. As per Rule 14, this is head-on situation. Each one should order her course to what? To starboard. Going that direction, this one going to this direction. You pass well clear, port to port. But maybe the guy is trying to turn the vessel and the vessel does not respond. The vessel continues going due to so many other reasons. He should continue doing something, communicate with the other vessel that I'm now facing difficulties in turning the vessel. Please maybe give wide berth while you are calling the master. You should not wait for collision. You should not wait for the captain to come on the bridge and say, you know, sir, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 situation. Because if you are in reciprocal causes, this just like this, vessel A and vessel B, the distance between you is always halved. It decreases very rapidly, because he's coming with whatever the speed is, say 25 knots, and probably you're doing 16 knots. It means together you are doing 41 knots. That is the thing. You are together doing 41 knots to get it to the point. So this is very dangerous. So you must do something to arrest the situation before the captain comes on the bridge. And as soon as he gets on the bridge, you must brief him. This vessel is doing this, and my vessel is doing this, I'm trying to do this, and this is happening. So that the captain is aware of what action you try to take, and what happened, and what he should do. Because after getting some information from you, then he knows if the vessel cannot respond to starboard, then what should I do? Should I stop the engine? Should I put full astern? Should I alter course boldly to port after informing the other vessel? Because when you are in the reciprocal course, it is not advisable. The rules does not allow you to alter course to port, because this one is required to alter course to starboard. And if you alter course to port, it means you're gonna collide around here. So these things need communication. If you communicate and tell the other part that I cannot alter my course to starboard owing to some reasons, I need to maintain my course and speed, please you alter course boldly to starboard. You just communicate. And this is practical. This kind of situation. So while the ship is sailing, the captain does not keep watch. He's thereby waiting if somebody calls him, because there are some reasons to call the master. He's not keeping watch, but he's busy sending the emails, the known report. Sometimes, of course, the second mate sends on his behalf, but there are some issues to call the master. For example, if visibility deteriorates, you must call the master. Sometimes, if traffic density is causing unnecessary concern, for example, there is lots of fishing vessels around, and you have a bigger vessel, it becomes difficult for you to avoid them. You call the master, so as he's well experienced, he knows what to do. But not necessarily calling. You can, if you can avoid them by yourself, then it's okay. But if this thing causes unnecessary concern to you, then you call the master. But call him in plenty of time. You should not wait for a close quarters situation. The fishing vessels are at close quarters, then you call the master. That will be useless. Call him in ample time. Okay, if difficulty is experienced into maintaining, because you need to maintain a course, but you cannot maintain the course. You tried hard for several minutes, but you cannot. Then you call the master, so as he can know what to do. If, for example, there is an emergency, say steering failure. If there is steering failure, you do the ABC. For example, if you are on autopilot, you have to disengage the autopilot, start manual steering. Start manual steering, emergency steering. But you notify the master, because you cannot continue doing like this without informing him, because you are likely to cause delay, probably. You must call him. If there is any emergency, you must call the master. For example, there is fire on board. Or any emergency, could it be man overboard, fire, any grounding, anything, any emergency, you must let him know in plenty of time. You call the master. If, for example, at this time you are expecting to sight a land or a navigational mark, and you don't see it, then you have to call the master. That I was expecting around this time, according to this speed, I was expecting to sight 1, 2, 3, 4, and I don't see it. Then you call the master. The master knows what to do. He can, of course, you call the master and fix the position. I'm at this position, whatever. If you're using charts or you're on this, you tell him, and the captain will know what to do. So if you cannot sight, say a landmark or anything, or sometimes in the opposite, if you sight a landmark unexpectedly, you are not at all expecting to sight any landmark, and all of a sudden you see ahead of you, then you must call the master, because otherwise you are off track. This is very important. So that's why the master does not keep watch while at sea, because he can be summoned on the bridge by the duty officer at any time. He can be summoned by the duty officer at any time. That's why he doesn't keep watch. But he will be also doing some clerical works in his office, management, sending the emails, receiving the emails, and all that. That kind of. And it is the duty of the duty officer to. He is responsible. The duty officer is responsible for everything, regardless of the master being on the bridge. Because if the master comes on the bridge, maybe for smoking cigarette or whatever, he just comes on the bridge to see. Oh, he's just walking around. When he comes on the bridge, you are not relieved of your duties as a duty officer. You must continue doing your job. You must continue with your duties, unless the captain tells you, that I have assumed the command of the vessel, and this has to be written on the logbook. The vessel is under master's command. As soon as the captain takes over the watch, you must log in the logbook. The vessel is under master's command. You log it in and you stand by there waiting for the instructions from the captain. But if you're just coming there smoking or just moving around like this, you cannot say that you are relieved of your duties. And this is the same applies to the pilot. If the pilot boards your vessel, you are not relieved of your duties. Whether the pilot is there and the captain is there, you are still the duty officer. You have to keep watch. But the captain will be advising you what to do if necessary. Otherwise, you receive instructions from the pilot, and you have to see if the instructions are dubious, then you must ask the pilot. For example, the pilot is telling hard starboard, and you see if maybe your vessel is heading this way, there is something here, and the pilot tells you hard starboard, and you know if you engage hard starboard, the vessel is going to strike something that then you have to confirm from the pilot. Hard starboard, sir? Yes, hard starboard. But I can see there is 1, 2, 3, 4 on our starboard. Oh, sorry, hard port. Because if you keep silent, probably the pilot is out of phase. He's a human being. He might be provoked by his wife or a girlfriend or just like that. Maybe he has a sick person in the hospital, his son, daughter, fiancé. He's out of phase. So he tell you hard starboard while he was intending to tell you hard port. So you must confirm the instructions given by the pilot or even the captain. The captain can tell you to go hard starboard. But if you, on the starboard side, you see there is something danger, there is a danger to navigation, you cannot do that. You have to seek some further instructions and tell him on the starboard side we have 1, 2, 3, 4, sir. Oh, okay, then we do the other way around. This is very important. So that's why we say the presence of the pilot or the master on the bridge does not relieve the duty officer of his duty, unless the captain tells him officially that I've assumed the command of the vessel, and this has to be written in the logbook that the vessel is under master's command. This must be understood in capital letters. So while in dry dock, of course, dry docking is about it's major repair of the vessel. While the vessel is on dry dock, everybody has his own duties, the chief mate, second mate, and everyone. But although the vessel is on dock, but the master is the owner representative. He must be responsible with everything going on there. He must be informed. You shouldn't be doing unless, of course, we have some dock workers, they have their plan, and the chief mate has to supervise them. You cannot just let them do whatever they want to do. No. The master must be informed in case something is done contrary to what was instructed to be done. Then the master must be informed, because after all, he's the overall in charge of the vessel. In case something goes wrong, the owners are going to ask the captain, "Captain, you were there, what happened? Why this is like this? Why this was not done?" He has to make sure that what has been agreed to be done, it has to be done timely. And he must be briefed of everything going on. We have done this and this and this and this and this, okay. And he sends the same report to the office, because it is him who is communicating with the owners. So he must also be informed. The chief mate is walking around, of course, the captain cannot just go and stand here looking for everyone, no. He can walk around sometimes, but most of the time his officers can walk around and tell him. But he's also required to walk around and observe what have been told by the chief mate. Is it done as we requested? What the chief mate has informed me that maybe we have covered 75% of the jobs to be done. Then you have to walk around and see, is it 75% or maybe it is only 40%? And time is running out. So all these things, as a captain, he has to walk around and see, and in case of something, he must call the dock master and tell him, I'm not happy with this, because time is running and we have only covered 40% and we have only just some few weeks to undock the vessel. While this and this and this and this not yet done. So that is the captain. So he's the one, because he's the manager of the vessel. So being the manager, it means he's the disturbance handler. Being the manager, it means he's the comforter. He's the one to comfort his people. He's the one to motivate his people. We discussed previously when we were talking about the 10 core safety leadership qualities, that you motivate and create a sense of community. You have to motivate your crew. And of course, Because he's the manager, he must have the 4 qualities of the managers, be it a minister, whoever, as long as you're leading people. If you don't have the 4 qualities, you cannot be a leader without commitment. You cannot be a leader without competence. You must be competent with what you're doing. You cannot be a leader if you have a negative attitude. You should always have good attitude. And you cannot be a leader if you're not motivational. So as a captain, he's the one committed to the safety of the vessel, to fullest compliance of the ISM code and international regulations. He's the one to make sure that he complies with the international regulations. International regulations, we mean the IMO instruments, like the SOLAS 74, like the MARPO 73, like the International Load Line 1966, like the International Tonnage Convention 1969, like the STCW 78 is amended, the Correx also 1972, plus the ILO MLC 2006. He must be comfortable, he must be happy with these. He must be happy with these instruments. He must ensure fullest compliance of this, and this needs commitment. If you're not committed, then you cannot comply with this. And there is a lot inside here. With the SOLAS, there is a lot, because you're talking safety of life at sea. Different sections, about 14 sections inside here. There's a section for life-saving appliances, section 3. There's a section for radio communication, section 4, regulation 4. There is regulation for safety of navigation, chapter 5. Chapter 5, the safety of navigation. Chapter 4 is radio communication. Chapter 3, what is life-saving appliances. Chapter 6, carriage of cargo. He must be happy with all chapters of SOLAS. And chapter 9, operations of ships, safe operation of ships and pollution prevention. That one is where ISM code is extracted. He must be happy with that. In the MARPO, all the 6 annexes, he must be happy. The load line marks, to see that the vessel is loaded as per load line zones, and he must be happy. The tonnage convention, the H covers, the STCW 78. He has to make sure that all crew on his vessel are well certificated. This is STCW. He has to comply with this, because otherwise he will meet with the port state control. He will meet with the port state control officers. They inspect this, and the vessel is going to be detained. And if you detain a vessel, it means you are losing money, because the vessel is wasting time. You are detained there until you rectify the problem. That one is going to take time, and time is money. So you should not subject the vessel to unnecessary detention just because of his poor decision. And all these things need what is known as commitment. But commitment alone without competence is nothing. You cannot be committed to something you don't know. That's why if you take a young boy, give him a pen, or say a bomb, and a pen, or something else. Because a bomb is like a ball, because he doesn't know the consequences, he might even take the bomb and leave this pen is useless. Take a bomb and it's going to explode, because he doesn't know the consequences. So to be committed, you need exactly to know what are these IMO instruments. What are these? Because if you don't know them, then you cannot be committed, and you cannot know them unless you are competent. It is this competence which gives you commitment, because you know what you are doing. When you are talking about SOLAS, you know what are you complying with. And when you're talking about STCW, the same. And when you're talking about the MLC, Maritime Labour Convention 2006, you're actually talking about the well-being of the crew. Their accommodation, what they eat, medical fitness, and all this. They are all coming from this one. And the attitude, of course, you shouldn't be always frowning your face, always shouting, always banging tables. No, you must be approachable. Your crew must be free to approach you. You must be approachable. You have to balance between lenience and strictness. You balance in between there. You shouldn't be too lenient that they misbehave, and you shouldn't be too strict that you make the crew confused. Just in between. And you must be motivational, because without motivation, ISM code is very difficult to implement. You have to motivate your crew, because there is a lot of checklist. there is a lot of do's and don'ts. Then you have to motivate. And not only motivating them, you have also, they need to see you doing it. Because if you're doing something which you're not, if you're saying something which you're not doing, you make them see this is useless, because you are talking about safety while you are flouting the safety rules. You're moving on main deck with the slippers, and you force them to put safety boots. You're putting on slippers and move on main deck while cargo operation is in progress. That will be useless. They won't understand. So you can see a captain is a lot to do on board, and that's why he's highly paid. And also he must be competent in maneuvering the vessel, competent in managing the vessel and the crew, competent in everything. That's why you said, in case of what we mentioned there, in case of poor visibility, in case of what, someone has to call you because you are more competent than him. It will be very ambiguous if you call the third mate to come. You can call him for assistance. For example, you need extra lookout, so you need extra officers, so as you can, maybe there is a tense situation. But not you call him for saying that, okay, third mate, I'm sorry, I cannot maintain the course, I don't know even where I am now. You ask the third mate. Instead of the third mate to ask you, he is the one to ask you, because you are well versed, you have good experience, so that you can chip in wherever and whenever you are consulted, you have to make sure that you chip in something. And one good thing is, when you join on board as a captain, there is a lot to do, including the certificates of the ship. All certificates of your vessel are under your custody. So if you don't check them, you cannot even know when they expire. You have to make sure that the vessel has valid documents. Your crew have valid documents, and the vessel also has valid documents. You are the one to check all this. You are the one to know, you are the one to keep even the last docking report. So that in case, for example, if you join on board as a master, the outgoing master must surrender these items, like the last dry docking reports, the ship certificate. He must surrender to you. If there is any cash in the safe, he must surrender, and of course an outline of that particular cash, what they spent, what remaining, just like that. You must know the ROB as well. You join as a master, you must be supplied with the ship's certificates. Ship's certificates to see that they are all valid. You must be furnished with the ROB in terms of fuel, ROB in terms of food, provision, ROB in terms of fresh water. You must be furnished with the drawings, ship's drawings. You must be furnished with if there is any cash in the safe. You must be furnished with the last dry docking report. The outgoing master must give this, must surrender this to you. You must be furnished with the crew certificates, because you are the custodian of these documents. So the outgoing captain, you should not allow him to step out of the door before he gives you this. You must be briefed. You must be briefed of the next employment, of the vessel. For example, the vessel is here. What is the next port? You have to get this information. And of course, if passage planning has been done or not for the next voyage, so that if it has been done, then you can audit and see if you are happy with it, or if you need to make some necessary amendments. And he must be furnished with the official logbook. Official logbook. Ship's files, master's files on board as per ISM code. The captain has his own files marked M, and for chief mate, some marking C, for second mate S, for third mate. They mark differently, depending on the company policy. So all files marked M are always for the master, and C for chief mate, for second mate, for third mate. They can put, some they just put like this, third officer. Some they put like this for second officer. Some they put CO for chief mate. But all the files must be are marked N. These files marked M are there for the captain. In these files, you can have the file for the charter parties. You can have the files for the correspondence, because all the emails you send and you receive, you must print some and keep. Because in case of any malfunctioning of the IT system, where are you going to get the backup? You cannot know. So what is required, the captain can, you print some and keep. So when you join on board, you peruse these files to see what is actually going on, and especially if you are new to that company. For example, you are a captain on board a vessel, you go for a leave, then you come back on the same vessel, you know almost everything, but you have to counter check. But if you are new to the company, you're new to the vessel, your job is more. You need to do more job to make sure that you get all this information. He must be also, of course, the outgoing captain cannot give him all the manuals, but he must have at least something written. He must have a list of the manuals on board, like a manual for the equipment on the bridge. If there's any operation manuals and all that, he must be given a list of this, so that he can know everything has its own manual for him to proceed. Because if you don't know what fuel is remaining, you cannot know. For example, now if you are assigned to go to a certain destination far away, you have to know what is fuel. You have to know food. If you need, before you go there, you can say, no, I cannot go there because with this amount of food I have on board, I cannot. I have to be replenished. I have to be supplied with the provision before departure and that sort of thing. There is a lot to be done by the captain because he is the overall in charge of the vessel. So anything going on board ship must be brought to the knowledge of the captain. You should not bypass him, because at the end of the day, he's the one who is going to be questioned. Even if the vessel collides, ask the captain what happened. Then it is him who will explain everything. So we have to respect the captains. They have a lot to do. There is a lot for the captain, but in a nutshell, these are the important points which we can extract more points from this. We can extract more points from this. Now let's go to a chief officer. He's the in charge of cargo operations. He's the in charge of cargo operations. Being in charge of the cargo operations, it means he's the one who preparing what is known as storage plan. As the chief mate, he must prepare the storage plan. After receiving the manifest, cargo manifest from the company, that we are going to load 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items, he's the one to prepare the storage plan. And this storage plan, we have the initial storage plan, and of course we have the final one. The final one, because sometimes on the storage plan, the chief mate might plan to say, okay, this huge item you will put it here. But in the actual practice, while you are loading, you find that it is practically impossible to store this particular cargo here. Instead, it is practically possible to be stored here. So you will not store this cargo here. Instead, you're going to store it there. Then you produce a final storage plan after complete loading. There are some reasons. Could be the listing, could be trimming. So whatever the reason, could be even space. Sometimes even space might limit you. So in case of that, the chief mate is going to adjust his storage plan, and he's the in charge. And of course, while we continue with the cargo operations, he's the one to do the stability calculations. He's the one to do the stability calculations. He's the one to do the stability calculations of the vessel to make sure that the vessel is loaded upright all the time. We shouldn't have some adverse risk to the vessel listing heavily to port or to starboard. That one is not allowed. He's the one to do the stability calculations. He's the one in charge with the cargo. He's the one in charge of ballast. In charge of ballast operation. You cannot just ballast as a duty officer without consulting the chief mate, because he's the one who is responsible with this. This is. So, continuing with the cargo operations, what else? He's the one to prepare a mate's receipt, which will produce the bill of lading. He's in charge of PMS, planned maintenance schedule. All deck maintenance on board ship are under the custody of chief officer. He's the one who is in charge of all this, assisted by the bosun and other ABs, because those ones, the bosun is just assisting him. Bosun is just assisting the chief mate to do the maintenance. Because with the planned maintenance, we have daily maintenance like greasing, we have weekly, we have 2 weekly, we have monthly, yearly, like that. So you have to follow strictly the planned maintenance schedule as per section 10 of ISM code. ISM code section 10 is talking about the maintenance of ship and equipment. This is where planned maintenance schedule is extracted from. But planned maintenance schedule is opposed by the what we call breakdown maintenance. Breakdown maintenance means you are not planned for. You just wait for something to break down, then you start doing something. That one is not allowed, because you are delaying the operations unnecessarily. You have to follow planned maintenance. If something has to be checked daily, you have to make sure that daily checks are carried out. If 2 weekly, if monthly, you have to see that. So the chief mate is in charge of this. But he's also the ship security officer. Chief mate is the ship security officer. Being the chief security officer, it means he's in charge of the ship security plan. He's in charge of ship security plan because he's the ship security officer. Being ship security officer, it means upon arrival on whatever the port the ship calls in, or the ship calls it, he's the one to meet the PFSO we discussed before. He's the one to meet the PFSO, Port Facility Security Officer of the port, and discuss about the security level to operate. Because we have 3 different security levels, security level 1, 2, and 3. Because if you put the ship to security level 3, it means you are jamming operations. You cannot carry out operations with security level 3. But you can carry out operations with security level 1, but you can carry out operations with the difficulty when operating at security level 2. Because you have stringent security inspections. The stevedores are spending much time on the gangway being inspected and all that. So a good operation can be carried out with security level 1 because it's normal inspection. But if you increase the security level, it means you are actually increasing security tightness, which of course hampers your operations. So the chief mate is in charge of the ship security plan because he's the ship security officer. He's the one to link with the PFSO, Port Facility Security Officer, to discuss about the security level they're operating in and sign what is known as Declaration of Security, DOS. They will sign, between the chief mate and the PFSO, they will sign a declaration of security upon agreeing which security level they are going to operate. Sometimes you can come as a ship, you can come with a higher security level. And you can lower it upon getting at the port, you discuss with the port facility security officer and you lower. And when you cast off, then you're going to raise your. But he's also keeping watch. He's also a watchkeeper. He's also a watchkeeper. 4 to 8. He keeps watch from 4 o'clock up to 8 o'clock in the morning, and from 1600 hours up to 2000 hours in the evening. 4 to 8. We call this 4 to 8. He's keeping watch. You can see how busy this man is, and he's also an administrator for officers and other crew. He's the administrator. So in case something becomes difficult to him, then he can take the matter to the captain. But he should not take everything to the captain. No. Some of the issues have to be concluded to the chief mate because he is the administrator. This is what actually, in a nutshell, is supposed to do. And he's the one to prepare. He's the one to prepare docking, plan, and list. Docking plan, docking list. If the vessel is to be taken to dry dock, the chief mate is the one preparing the docking list or the docking plan, that we are going to dock this and this and this and this and this would need to be done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the job for the chief mate. And from this, you can extract as many jobs as possible from this, depending on the type of the vessel. Because when you're talking about the LPG, differs from the RoRo, differs from oil and chemical tanker, differs from passenger vessels, differs from a cruise. And the company policies. Company policies also have to be strictly followed, because different companies have different policies. And with that policy, you cannot operate it with your own thinking. You have the company policy plus your expertise, then you move forward. You should not ignore the company policy. But the ISM code allows you to depart slightly sometimes, to depart from the company instructions so as to arrest a certain situation. If you see that following the company instructions will worsen the situation, will make the situation worse, you are allowed to depart from it to an extent necessary to arrest the situation and resume back to the principles and the regulations of the company. This is, in a nutshell, what the chief mate is required to do. So when we're talking about maintenance, maintenance is for everything on deck, including the cranes, greasing the cranes, the windlasses, winches, splicing wires, all that, chipping, scrapping, painting, just maintenance of the vessel. Painting the anchor chains, marking the anchor cables and all this, he must all under his custody. Now we come to the second officer. First of all, he is the navigator. Navigator, which means is the one planning the voyage. He's the one planning the voyage basing on the passage planning steps, which are appraisal, planning, execution, monitoring, plus or minus evaluation nowadays. The four are the main one. This one is additional. When we're talking about appraisal, appraisal simply means gathering information. You get the information from where? From nautical publications. You get the information from the chart itself. You get the information from sailing directions. You get the information from distance tables. You get the information from ocean passages of the world. You get the information from routing charts and see during this month where should we actually pass. Because with the routing charts we have January up to December for all oceans. January up to December, because the situation differs. And all these on June, the sun is on Tropic of Cancer. Here, March and September, the sun is at the equator. And December, like now, the sun is in Tropic of Capricorn. So with the movement of the sun is causing uneven heating of the earth. If the sun is on the northern hemisphere, we expect this area to be more warm than the other area. Being warm, it means the air is heated, and if the air is heated, it expands and rises. So it creates a drop in pressure in this area. So if there is a drop in pressure, where does the wind? High to low pressure. So we have winds going northeasterly or northwesterly, depending on that. So we have the winds going that direction. All these things have a bearing in navigation, because we have the seasonal currents as well. Like, for example, the East African current is seasonal. It's not permanent like the Mozambique current. Mozambique current, Agulhas current, Benguela current, Guinea current, these are permanent. But East African current is seasonal. During June, July, it's heading this way. During the southeastern monsoon, it is going downwards. So you have to consider, and of course with the currents, with the ocean currents, if the mainstream is heading this way, the mainstream is heading that way, there is always very strong resistance around here. And there is a counter current very close to the coast and very deep to the ocean. You have an opposite current, counter current. It's like when you put water in a basin. You can see water going when it's striking the walls, some water coming this side and the other water going the other side, and the mainstream remains at the center. So there is always much resistance here if you are heading on, and there is an opposing current on the sides, somewhere deep to sea and very close to the coast. So as a navigator, he must understand this. If you are heading this way, you are happy. You can use this current to gain speed. But if you're coming against, then you have to think about this current. How much speed are you going to lose? You either go closer to the coast if it is safe to do so, safe and practicable, or you either go more to deep, so as you can have the influence of the current a little bit reduced by the opposing or counter current. So that's why we have to consult during appraisal. He has to consult the sailing directions, has to consult the ocean passages of the world, has to consult the what else? The distance tables, has to consult routing charts, etc. He consults and extracts some information before he embarks into planning the voyage. And after gathering all this information, then he comes to planning. And of course, during the appraisal situation, this nowadays is done as a teamwork. We do this as a teamwork. The captain, all officers, all deck officers, you discuss. We are coming from Bangkok, say to Europe. How are we going to make it during this month? It's December now. How are the prevailing winds? And you check all these things. Then after that, the second mate will put into a plan. So planning is putting the appraisal in action. You take the information which you gathered from these publications, put them on your chart, on that thing, or in your ECDIS. That is what you know as planning. But execution is implementing the plan. You extract some information from publications so as you can put them in your plan when you are drawing the route from point A to point B. After you complete putting the route on your chart, what next? If you cast off there and the vessel now starts to sail, you are actually executing the plan. To execute, you are operating, you are putting the plan into action. Monitoring is what is known as watchkeeping. This is your track. The vessel should be moving on the track. But if it happens to, for some reasons, maybe there is a wind or current taking the vessel, so the vessel is taken out of the track, is now off track. So the duty officer, by monitoring, he's the one to take back the vessel to the track. You are doing monitoring. But nowadays, there is what is known as evaluation or assessment. You have to evaluate, did the plan bring intended results? You were expecting to have a certain average speed. Are you getting it now? If you're not getting, what should you do? You evaluate. And that's why sometimes you may be navigating this way, and all of a sudden the captain comes on the bridge and call the second mate and say, okay, second mate, now I think this one is not giving us the intended results. What should we do? Let's go this way. And you can change the route, while sailing, you can do, because of evaluation or assessment of the route. This is amongst the job for the second mate. The next thing is in charge of all nav equipments, all navigation equipments. He's in charge. He's the one to know their maintenance, to know their operational status, and in case there is anything wrong to any of the equipment, he must bring to the knowledge of the master immediately, so that if they need a replacement or something, the company should know and replace it. But he's also a watchkeeper. And his watch is 12:04. His watch is 12:04. His watch is 12:04. Or sometimes we say 12:04 or 0:04 or 04 sometimes. He's the watchkeeper. He's also the doctor on board ship. On board ship, we can, of course, we are not operating, we are not doing the major operations, but like the first aid, someone is sick of something or someone is injured, second mate is the one custodian of all medical appliances and medicines on board ship. So he's the doctor on board ship. He's the one in case someone is sick, at least to give him something, to attend him, to prepare a report for that before you send him ashore, in case you need to discharge, in case you need to send him ashore for further treatment, then the second mate will write something. But he also assists the master to send noon report. He's the one preparing the noon report. He's the one preparing noon report. And some of the masters can give him this responsibility to send the email. But some of them, the second mate prepares and gives to the master that this is the noon report, and the master sends it. So it all depends on the company policy and the vessel management. So this is and during, for example now, during mooring the ship, for the chief mate, during mooring the ship, his station is forward. During mooring and anchoring, for the chief mate, his station is forward. But second mate, during mooring, his station is aft. When mooring the vessel. When mooring the vessel, the second mate station is aft station. The chief mate station is forward for standing by anchor and for mooring purposes. This is in a nutshell about. So being in charge of navigation equipment is the one to correct the charts, to do corrections by using, we call notes to mariners. Notes to mariners. He's the one correcting the charts or ECDIS by using notes to mariners. This, in a nutshell, are the responsibilities of a second officer or a second mate. And there are some files also for him regarding the charts, regarding the medicines. And he keeps the medical log. He's the one to keep the medical log. Now we come to the third mate. We come to the third mate. Of course, this will be he's the safety officer, taking care of the firefighting appliances, life-saving appliances, like the self-contained breathing apparatus. Just firefighting and life-saving appliances. All these are under the custody of a third officer. He's the one in charge of the safety equipment. But he's also a watchkeeper. He's also a watchkeeper. He's keeping 12. We call 12-4. We call 12-4. He keeps watch there. And during mooring, he's always on the bridge. On the bridge. During mooring, when you are going alongside, he's on the bridge. Or during maneuvering. Not necessarily mooring. During maneuvering. When the vessel is maneuvering, the third mate is always on the bridge assisting the captain. He's the one receiving the orders from the captain or the pilot. Dead slow ahead, he has to engage dead slow ahead. Stop engine, he has to stop engine. Full astern or stop, whatever the instructions getting from there, either the pilot or the captain. He's the one to do it. And apart from this, sometimes if we have a cadet on board, he's always accompanied with the third mate to a certain extent, so as he can assist him to do this. And after a certain time, he will be accompanied with the second mate to learn the plotting and all this. And after, he'll be accompanied with the chief mate to learn the cargo operations and just like that. But the third mate is the safety officer. He's in charge of the firefighting appliances. He's the watchkeeper for 12-4. He's also, during maneuvering, he's also required to be on the bridge to assist the captain or the pilot during maneuvering. And this is very important because if he's not taking charge of these equipments, at the end of the day, if fire erupts on board and you find that the fire extinguisher is not working, so the whole system is going to be in the worst situation. And that's why he's always very busy. Some other ships, like the other one I was before, has 58 fire extinguishers. SAF Marine, they have between 165 to 200 pieces of fire extinguishers. You see the vessel for SAF Marine container ships. So you can imagine how busy this young boy is. Forget about the life raft. Forget about the pyrotechnics. Forget about, there is a lot. The life ring, life buoys, all this. He's the one to take charge and make sure that these equipments are always ready for immediate use. They have to be ready for immediate use at any time. In case of emergency, we just deploy the gadgets and continue. We should not get stuck for the lifeboat or for the life raft or anything because maybe he didn't grease something. So this, in a nutshell, is all about the third mate duties. And for today, I think let's call it a day. We're discussing about the duties and responsibilities of deck personnel. Maybe next time we'll check on the engine personnel as well, so that for the viewers, students, and whoever, they have to get at least in a nutshell. For a cadet, if he becomes a third mate, next he becomes a second mate or a chief mate, then he has to know the ABCs. If he becomes a master in the future, he must know what is expected of the master, what the master is doing while on board. Those are the brief explanations regarding the duties and the responsibilities of different officers on board ship, especially deck officers. Let's come to the end of our program. Keep on watching Safiri Salama na Merikebu. This is Captain Konsi Mgawe. See you next time.
Ndugu mtazamaji wa kipindi chetu cha Safiri Salama na Merikebu kutoka Joe Trading Company. Tumetumia tumejifunza mambo mengi sana kuhusiana na duties and responsibilities as a personnel on board. Hii vitu gani basi amefundisha katika mtaalamu wetu? Amefundisha majukumu na wajibu mbalimbali wa nahodha. Ameanzia master, umeangalia kwamba master ana majukumu gani. Master ndio overall charge wa meli. Master sio tu hiyo, ndio anarepresent owner of the ship. Majukumu ya master ni mengi na ni makubwa ambayo umeona mwenyewe. Master ndio anatupua mzigo mkubwa. Captain ndio anaangalia crew wale wamekula nini, anaangalia mambo mbalimbali kuhusiana na chombo, anaangalia chombo chenyewe, anaangalia kama ni abiria. Hivyo basi unapokuwa captain, mambo mengi na majukumu mengi ambayo unakutana nayo katika kipindi chako katika chombo. Chombo kinasafiri sehemu moja kwenda safari nyingine. Kwa mfano leo chombo kinatoka Dar es Salaam kinaelekea Zanzibar, basi master ndio mwangalizi wa usalama mzima wa kile chombo. Abiria leo kapata tatizo, chombo kimezima mashine, basi abiria wote wanataharuki na kuangalia master atasema nini ama captain atasema nini. Sio tu hilo, mabaharia wenyewe chakula wamekosa jikoni, chakula kimekwisha, wanaangalia captain anasema nini. Kwa kila mmoja anamtupia lawama au anamtupia mzigo nani? Master wa chombo chetu. Hivyo basi unapokuwa master wa meli, unatakiwa uwe committed, unatakiwa motivation, unatakiwa vile vile sio tu hilo, unatakiwa mtu ambaye uko competent, unajua nini unachokifanya katika uchini wako as a master. Lakini haitoshi, master ndiye mmoja wapo anayesimamia masuala yote yanayohusiana na ulinzi wa usalama ndani ya chombo. Baada ya hapo mtaalamu wetu akazungumzia chief officer. Chief officer umeona majukumu yake ndio cargo officer, anayeshughulikia masuala mbalimbali ya mzigo pamoja na stability ya chombo na kadhalika. Akatoka akazungumzia masuala ya second mate, akazungumzia second mate ndio navigation officer katika meli, na amezungumzia umeona namna gani anapoandaa safari yetu kutoka sehemu moja kwenda nyingine, kwamba tunaita passive planning, na ndio mwandaji wa passive planning huyo second mate ama second officer. Baada hapo mtaalamu wetu akazungumzia third officer ama third mate. Third officer ama third mate ndio safety officer on board. Masuala yote husiana na vifaa vya usalama melini, life saving appliances, firefighting equipment na kadhalika, vifaa vya usalama viko chini ya safety officer ambaye ni third mate. Kwa wale ambao ni mabaharia, ma-ABs, ma-OS wanaoplan kuja kuwa maafisa baadaye, nafasi pekee kuona je, leo nikiwa third officer nini nakifanya, nikiwa second mate nini nikifanya, ndapokuwa master wa meli. Watu wengi wanakuangalia master Ship owner anakuangalia master, chombo chake kifike salama. Maagent wanaangalia pia master kwamba mzigo usipate damage, mzigo slowane, mzigo fresh short. Lakini sio tu hilo, mizigo tahibiwa, agent anakutupia master, ship owner anakutupia master, na wengineo wanakuangalia master unafanya nini. Hivyo basi unapojiunga katika fani yetu katika marine, ama unapotegemea kuja kwa nahodha hapo baadaye, ujue master ana mzigo gani, na ndio maana mzigo wa master mwisho wa siku analipwa mshahara mzuri na mnono. Karibu sana katika kipindi chetu cha Safiri Salama na Merikebu. Usisahau kubonyeza subscribe na alama ya kengele. Nilikuwa na mimi Captain Josiah Mwakibuja kutoka Joel Trading Company.